You feel it, don't you? That pain that has never really gone away. You may have learned to hide it, to move on as if nothing ever happened, but deep down it's still there. And I know that sometimes you wonder if you'll ever really be able to get rid of it. If you'll ever stop hurting. You try not to think about it, but certain memories come back without warning. Words that scarred you, actions that hurt you, moments you would give anything to erase. Have you ever wondered how many times you've replayed that scene in your head, as if trying to find an explanation, a reason, something that makes sense? But the truth is, some things will never make sense. The problem isn't what happened, the problem is what's left inside you after that. You carry this pain as if it were part of who you are, as if it defines you. But it doesn't define you, you know that. You just don't know how to rid yourself of this feeling once and for all. But you need to. Because there comes a moment when carrying that pain no longer makes sense. It no longer protects you. It just keeps you trapped. And no matter how impossible it seems, no matter how many answers you don't have right now, there is a way. But it starts when you choose to stop running. When you confront what's inside you without fear of what you're going to feel. And you know it's time. But are you ready? You know it's time. But something within you hesitates. Because touching this hurts. Because the unknown is frightening. Because in a way this pain has become part of who you are. And even knowing that it holds you back, there's a fear of letting it go. As if by releasing it, you'd lose something that, in a way, keeps you standing. But stop and think. What exactly are you holding on to? Memories, resentments, broken promises, or the illusion that one day everything will resolve itself? You know it won't. You know that until you truly face this, that wound will remain open, even if it's disguised under forced smiles and busy days that leave no time for reflection. And that's exactly what's holding you back. It's not the past. It's not what happened. It's not who hurt you. It's this internal resistance. Internal. This fear of looking within and realizing that there's an emptiness, a hole that hasn't been filled. But what if I told you it can be? That you no longer have to carry this weight? That the only thing truly missing is you allowing yourself to let go? I know you've tried to forget, tried to move on as if nothing ever happened. But moving on doesn't mean pretending it doesn't hurt. It means accepting that it did hurt, that it left a mark, that it transformed you. But still you have the power to decide what to do with that. And now you need to decide. Will you continue to carry this pain as if it's an inevitable burden? Or will you finally allow it to become something different? Because it can. Because all pain has a purpose, no matter how hard it is to see that right now. You went through all this for a reason. Perhaps it was to learn something, to grow stronger, to see what you didn't see before. But none of this makes sense if you keep reliving the past as if it's still happening now. And that's the truth you're avoiding. The past no longer exists. It only lives in your mind, in your memories, in your emotions. But it has already passed. Those who hurt you have moved on. The situation has dissolved. The moment is behind you. Only you are still stuck in it. And maybe it's because of the fear of what comes next. Because if you let go of that pain, what's left? Who are you without it? You've built so much around this story that without it, it might feel like something is missing. But it's not missing. On the contrary, without that pain, you can finally be whole. But first, you need to stop feeding that wound. Because every time you relive that pain, every time you go back to that place inside of you, it's like reopening the cut. You're not letting it heal. You're keeping the wound open, hoping that one day it will disappear on its own. But healing hurts. And you need to feel that pain one last time, truly, so it can finally go away. This means allowing yourself to cry, to scream, to question, to feel everything you've avoided feeling for so long. But after that, it means releasing yourself. Because holding on to that pain doesn't change what happened. It doesn't erase the past. It only destroys your present. And you can't let that happen anymore. Life is happening right now, but you're stuck in a time that no longer exists. Opportunities are passing by, days are slipping away, and you're still frozen at that point in your story where everything fell apart. But it's already past, and you need to remember that. So now I ask you, are you ready to let go? To release that pain once and for all? Because if you are, the first step is to accept that it's enough. And you know that it is enough. So, what are you going to do now? Do you feel it right now, that tightness in your chest? That weight that seems to grow every time you think about letting go. Because as much as you want to, something inside of you resists. And it's not because you enjoy the pain. It's not because you want to suffer. It's because that pain has become part of your identity. You've gotten used to carrying that weight, to seeing the world through a lens of hurt, fear, and mistrust, to living with that feeling that something still needs to be resolved, that there's an emotional debt that's never been settled. But what you haven't realized is that this debt isn't to the person who hurt you. It's to yourself. Because with each passing day, you owe yourself a little more peace. Every time you relive that story, every time you return to that place in your mind where everything went wrong, you're robbing yourself of living in the now. So, until when? Until when will you allow the past to keep stealing your present? Until when will you let the echoes of what happened speak louder than your desire to be free? Because you know too much time has already passed. That this wound has consumed hours, days, years of your life. That you've closed yourself off from so many opportunities out of fear of getting hurt again. That you've lost connections because you didn't trust, because you didn't allow yourself, because you've been carrying this heavy burden for far too long. And you can keep going like this. You can keep waiting for time to heal, for life to bring answers, for one day by some miracle this pain to simply disappear. Or you can decide right now. Because the truth is, the pain only disappears when you stop holding on to it. And maybe you're waiting for an apology that never came. Maybe you're waiting for someone to acknowledge what they did to you. Maybe you're waiting for the world to make up for what was taken from you. But what if it never happens? Will you condemn yourself to live trapped in this forever? Because as long as you keep waiting for justice, the one who hurt you continues to have power over you. But the moment you let go, the moment you say, I refuse to carry this for another day, everything changes. And no, it doesn't mean that what happened was right. It doesn't mean that the pain wasn't real. It simply means that you choose not to let it define you. Because you have already been strong enough to survive everything that has happened to you. Now you need to be strong enough to free yourself from it. And yes, it hurts. It hurts to accept that certain things will never have explanations. It hurts to realize that some people will never acknowledge what they did. It hurts to know that you went through all of this without deserving it. But it hurts even more to remain trapped in this pain. And there comes a time when you have to ask yourself, which pain do you prefer? The pain of letting go and rebuilding yourself? Or the pain of spending your entire life reliving what should have been left behind? Because the truth is that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It just means that you no longer want to carry that burden. You deserve more than this. Your life is worth more than this story. And you know it is. But now you need to take action. It's not enough to just think, reflect, or understand. You need to make a decision. So decide now. Tell yourself out loud if necessary, I am not going to carry this for another day. Feel what this stirs up inside you. Maybe fear, maybe resistance, maybe relief. But this is what you need to confront. Because no one else can let go of this pain for you. No one else can go through this process for you. Only you. And now is the time. So are you going to keep living in this invisible prison? Or are you finally going to give yourself the freedom you have always deserved? And what if I told you the moment is now? That there is no other day, no other time, no other more suitable scenario for this than this very instant. You can keep feeding the illusion that you need to wait until you feel ready. But when did you ever truly feel ready for any big change? The truth is that readiness doesn't come. What comes are the moments of rupture, those instances when life pushes you to the wall and forces you to decide. Will you keep carrying this pain or let go once and for all? And maybe now is that moment. I know that something inside you is still hesitating, because letting go means saying goodbye. It means admitting that there's nothing more to be done, that there's no turning back, that what was left behind needs to stay in the past. And that is scary. Because this pain, however cruel it may have been, no matter how suffocating, was still a familiar place. We cling to what we know even if it hurts, because the unknown seems worse. But the unknown in this case is what could save you. Imagine yourself a year from now, a year living without that burden, without that voice in your head reminding you of what hurt you. A year without the feeling that something is still unresolved, that something is missing so you can finally feel free. Imagine waking up and feeling light. Imagine breathing without that weight in your chest following you. Imagine being able to look at that story without feeling that it still holds power over you. Do you think it's impossible? It's not. But it will only be real if you allow it to be. And allowing means putting your foot down. No more feeding the pain, no more reliving what has already happened. No more making the same excuses to yourself, repeating the same speech, pretending you're going to change tomorrow. There is no tomorrow for this. Either you choose now, or that pain continues to consume you. And it doesn't matter how many reasons you have to keep holding on to this. In the end, it all boils down to a single question. Do you want to keep living like this? Because if the answer is no, you already know what you need to do. You know you need to say goodbye to that pain. It doesn't matter if there are still doubts. It doesn't matter if there are remnants of hurt. What matters is that the time has come to stop carrying this weight that no longer belongs to you. And I know that at this moment you feel something moving inside you. Something that hesitates, that questions, that fears, but also something that wants to be free. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep living the same story, holding on to the same ghosts? Are you going to finally let go of this pain and make room for something new? The choice is yours, but make that choice now. I know that this decision isn't easy. I understand that in a way this pain has become part of your daily life. You carry it in your gaze, in your words, in the way you protect yourself, in the fear of reliving everything again. I know that many times you wanted to believe that you had moved on, that it no longer hurt, that everything was resolved within you. But then in some random moment, that memory returned. That tightness in your chest reappeared. That feeling that something hasn't fully closed yet. And I get it, because letting go of the past isn't a one-time, definitive, instant act. It's a process. And this process hurts, because when you let go, you're not only giving up the pain, but also the idea that things could have been different at some point. You stop waiting for answers that will never come. You stop searching for justifications for the unjustifiable. You stop believing you need a perfect closure to finally move on. The truth is that most stories don't have a beautiful ending. Most wounds aren't healed by the ones who caused them. Most broken hearts aren't mended with apologies. You can't change what happened, but you can change how it lives within you. And that's what I'm asking you to do now. You're tired of this pain, aren't you? You're tired of carrying this anguish, of reliving the same scenes, of asking yourself, what if it had been different? You've realized that none of this moves you forward, that none of this brings back what was lost, so what's the point of holding on any longer? If you let go now, what really happens? Do you lose something? Or do you finally gain something you should have received a long time ago? Because freedom is waiting for you. The peace you've been searching for is already available, but it doesn't come alone. It needs you to make space for it. And I know that even hearing this, even feeling it's true, something inside you still resists. Because part of you believes that by letting go of this pain, you will be invalidating what happened. As if it would be a disrespect to your own story, as if forgetting would mean allowing everything to repeat itself. But letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is not pretending nothing happened. It's not minimizing your pain. It's not forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. It's not accepting the unacceptable. Letting go is simply deciding that you will no longer allow this to define your life. You have suffered enough. You have cried enough. You have spent years carrying this weight that is no longer necessary. Now is the time to let go. And I know that this decision is difficult. I know it takes courage, because after so long living with this pain, you might be afraid of who you will be without it. It might feel strange not to feel that wound pulsing inside you anymore. It might feel odd to wake up one day and realize that hurt no longer has a place. But you need to trust that what comes after this is so much better. Have you ever imagined what your life would be like without this emotional burden? Have you allowed yourself to envision a future where this pain no longer influences your choices? Because that future exists. There will come a day when you look back and realize that what once was your greatest suffering no longer holds weight. You'll see that you can talk about that story without feeling your heart race, without feeling a knot in your throat, without feeling that it still defines who you are. That day could be today, not because you will erase the past, but because you will finally give yourself the chance to live in the present. And I want you to do that now. Take a deep breath. Feel this pain for the last time. Look at it with honesty, with courage. So let it go, release it. Free yourself from that weight you were never meant to carry. Say it out loud if you need to. I don't need this anymore. I choose to be free. And feel what happens inside you when you make that decision. Maybe tears will fall, maybe a knot will unravel. Perhaps for the first time in a long while, you'll feel a little relief. Because this is the truth, you never needed to carry that pain for the rest of your life. You just needed to decide that it was enough. And now that you've made that decision, I want to know, what has this message stirred within you? What pain are you releasing right now? What inside you needs to be set free? Share that with me in the comments. Write it down, let it out. Because sometimes the first step to being free is simply recognizing that it's time. And if this message touched something in you, if you felt like you needed to hear this today, please give it a like. That helps me understand I'm reaching the right people, that this message is landing where it needs to land. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because this journey doesn't end here, this is just the beginning of a new chapter. And I want to be here to remind you, whenever you need it, that there's a path beyond the pain. Now, the final decision is in your hands. You can walk away from this video and keep living the way you always have, or you can do something different. What will you choose?